Hi, welcome to this video. My name is Bruce Gregg. I am a civil and commercial mediator, and this is one of a series of videos aimed at mediation advocates. So that's solicitors and barristers who are representing their client at mediation to help you prepare your client for the mediation session. And this video is all about thinking about creative solutions which might resolve the dispute. So most disputes are going to be resolved through a payment of money from one side to the other, but sometimes there are other things which you can throw into the mix which might just be enough to make the difference between the mediation succeeding or the mediation not succeeding. And I'm going to list 10 categories of things to consider. It's worth remembering, if one side to the mediation is funded by a litigation funder, lots of this probably won't apply. The litigation funder is a financial investor. They are interested in a financial settlement. Probably the only creative element that you can throw into that kind of mediation is payment terms. If someone's settling it by paying an amount of money to the other side, there can be some creative work perhaps around how long that side can take to pay and how long the other side is willing to accept before they receive full payment. But let me list the 10 categories. First one, intellectual property assets or intangible assets of some sort. And what we're always looking for here is examples of things that are more valuable to one side than the other. And that's where you can find something that will tip the balance. So in the case of computer code, for example, it could well be that only one side has the technical expertise to really use that code. And so it becomes more valuable to them than to the other side. Even physical goods might be much more valuable to one side than the other. Take stock, for example, if only one side is really in a position to trade the stock that's been left in the business, then that's more valuable to them than it is to the other side. So if you're dealing with a partnership dispute, for example, and there's just some stuff in the business, it could well be that some of those assets are worth much more to one side than the other, and that can make a big difference to settlement. Third category, so first category is intangible assets, second category is physical assets, third one, an apology. This quite often comes up, and it might be really important to one side to receive an apology, and very easy for the other side to give that apology. And again, that can make a big difference. Fourthly, some kind of agreed reference or testimonial. In the case of employment disputes, this often arises where an agreed form of words, an agreed reference will form part of the settlement agreement. It's important that your client thinks through if they're receiving the reference, what they want it to say, and if they're giving it, what they're willing to put down. Fifth thing, public statement of some sort. So it could well be that although the mediation itself is confidential, the two parties might wish to say something in public about how the dispute was resolved or the history or what have you. And again, that can make the difference between settlement or not. Agreements can get unstuck on that kind of thing. So it's worth making sure that your client is really clear in advance what the kinds of things are that they would want to be said in public and what they would not be willing to be stated in public. It's possible, sixth thing, that you could renegotiate terms entirely. It's possible that the two businesses don't want to entirely go separate ways, and there could be a way through the dispute which actually involves renegotiating the contract and starting again on new terms. 7, land and right-of-way disputes. Consider, or ask your client to consider, are there other parcels of land that are perhaps not subject to the dispute that might be helpful in resolving it? Often boundary disputes are over very small plots of land, just the size of the boundary. And it may well be that one side would concede having the boundary moved as they see it in return for receiving some other parcel of land, which is more valuable to them. Here's an example. For example, this was a right-of-way dispute involving right-of-way across the private garden of in this case, house A. So house B has a right-of-way, terraced houses. House B has a right-of-way over the private garden to get access to the street. In this case, it was actually crossing house A's patio, which has a wasn't happy about, and they were asserting that the right of way actually went across the back of their garden and down the side down here. And one possible solution to this would be, rather than arguing about the right of way, would be for House A to have transferred a strip of land to House B, to actually give House B not a right of way, but actual land which gets them access to the road, which is actually a small concession as far as House A is concerned. It's not a big part of their garden, but extremely valuable to House B. In this example, it actually didn't form part of the settlement agreement, but it was discussed. It's the kind of thing which can make a big difference. For business disputes, equity is another route. Shares. It's possible that if one side is unwilling or unable to offer money to settle a dispute, it's possible they could make some kind of payment in shares, or just an agreement to share in the future earnings of the project that's part of the dispute. Ninth example is simply payment terms. And again, it's important when your client is preparing for mediation to think through, if they're going to be the paying party, how long do they need to pay, over what period of time are they going to be able to actually pay the agreed sum? And if they're a receiving party, how long are they willing to wait to be paid in full? And that can make a big difference to how much the total amount of money is. If it can be spread over a longer period of time, that opens up possibly a larger settlement. And final point is security for payment terms. So if someone is agreeing to pay over a long period of time, is there some security they can offer to guarantee that payment, whether that's security over an asset or someone else guaranteeing the payment, for example? That also might help. So those are the 10 categories that you can go through with your client to help them think up possible creative elements to a settlement of their dispute. Intellectual property or other intangible assets, physical assets, an apology, some kind of reference or testimonial, some kind of agreed public statement about the dispute or about the settlement of it, renegotiating the contract altogether, having a brand new contract. 7, in land disputes, different parcels of land or rights of way in different places to help resolve the dispute. For businesses, shares rather than money, equity rather than cash, or just some agreement about a share in future revenue. Extended payment terms, and in the case of extended payment terms, 10th category would be some kind of security if that's available, to give the receiving party reassurance around those payment terms. And if you'd like to hear more about my work, please visit my website, www.brucegregmediator.com.